Hi, everyone, and welcome back to our MET Masterclass series. Thank you very much for joining us once again on a Thursday morning or evening. Good morning from Michigan. And hi, Philip.
Hello, Emily, and good evening from the Philippines.
I love your shirt today, Philip.
I wore it especially for this webinar today.
I love that. Thank you. So I recognize some of the names of our audience. So thank you for spending the next half an hour with us once again, as we talk about MET Speaking Task 3 today. My name is Emily Clifford. I work at Michigan Language Assessment. I'm the Academic Services Manager, and I'm thrilled to once again be joined by Mr. Philip Aitona.
Lecturer at 9.09er, partner of MET to help people prepare for their exams.
Exactly. So let's just dive right in. As you've probably seen from our previous webinars, and if you weren't able to join the previous two, they are available to watch on YouTube. So if you have some time after this session and you want to check those out, please go to YouTube at Michigan Language Assessment, and you'll see both of those videos there. So for today, we will give you a quick overview of what is involved in the MET speaking section. We'll look very closely at speaking task 3 with some model answers, and we'll be talking about what makes them good, what could be better. We would love to get your feedback, so please don't be shy and leave your comments in the chat. Let us know what you're thinking or ask us any questions. We love questions. So please feel free to ask us anything that you like. We'll give you some tips for preparing for speaking task 3, and then we will hopefully have some time at the end to answer more questions if you have any.
Indeed, comments and questions are great. Keep them coming.
Yes. So before we go into the speaking section, I just wanted to give you, in case you're not familiar with MET or the Michigan English test, this is what the whole test looks like. It's a 4-skill test and lasts, with all of those 4 sections, around 155 minutes. You can see what's involved in each section on the screen there. We will be covering listening and reading in a future webinar, and we will have 2 more webinars on the writing tasks. So mark your calendars. I'll give you the link at the end. But for today, we're talking about speaking, which is computer delivered like the rest of the test. It has 5 tasks and lasts for around 10 minutes in total. So let's look at the speaking.
Oh yes, let's get right down to it.
So,
Lovely.
Philip, did you
There
want to talk through what's involved in the speaking section as a whole?
Very briefly, there are two parts. The first part, there are three questions. There are three tasks that you're asked to perform, and part two has two of them. First three are easier in general. The last two are harder. We have for the past two sessions, we've been doing tackling these tasks one at a time. We're done with task one and task two, and today we shall be talking about task three. In task three, you're asked to give your opinion on a topic related to the image. You would notice by looking at it very quickly that tasks one, two, and three are all related to the image that you would be seeing in task one, which means that in a sense, your answers in part one, in question one, would help you can use that to build on your answers in two and three because they're gonna be somehow connected to each other. So that's lovely. And they are, however, at the same time, as I mentioned earlier, they become more and more difficult as you progress. So in part one, what you're asked to do is to look at the picture and just talk about what you see in front of you. Task two, you're asked to recall a personal experience. So the substance of your answer is not something that's spoon fed to you, sense, but something that you have to exert some effort to recall. This time in task three, you won't be able to really merely rely on what happened already in the past, but now you're going to come up with something brand new, perhaps an opinion, uh, a point of view, a perspective regarding the topic that is related to the image. In a short while, we'll be examining various ways on how you can do that. We look forward to your participation during that time.
That was a great summary. And we will be going over tasks 4 and 5 in the next 2 weeks. So for today, we're just talking about task 3. As a quick reminder, this is how MET speaking is rated. You can download the full rating scale if you want to look at it closely, and I recommend doing so as part of your MET preparation so that you really understand exactly what the raters are looking for, so you can make sure you're hitting all of the points that you need to when you're practicing, which will give you confidence when you come to your test day. It's rated in 3 categories. You have task completion, which is how well you've completed the task, how relevant what you say is to what you've been asked, how much language you're producing. So, are you speaking for the full amount of time that you are allowed? And are you able to elaborate and give lots of extra details, provide supporting information in your answers? You've got language resources, which is about your vocabulary and your grammar, how broad your range of language is, and how appropriate the words you've chosen and the grammar to some extent you've chosen is appropriate and relevant to the task, and how complex your grammar is. And then the last category is how you speak, how you're delivering your response. So, how fluently you speak, any hesitations if they're very long and make it difficult to follow what you're saying, your pronunciation, and the rhythm of your speech. For today, like the previous webinars, we will be focusing on task completion. So, giving you lots of tips on how to really make sure you're fully completing task 3, and your language resources, how to boost your the vocabulary you're using, how to incorporate or use more complex grammar, and making sure everything that you say is accurate. We won't be talking too much about intelligibility and delivery. We're just focusing on the first 2 categories for these webinars. Philip, did you have anything to add before we get into the tasks?
Oh, yes. All I wanted to add was that task completion and language resources are already a lot. So it would be helpful for us to just focus on those two because there's much ground to cover in those 2 criteria.
Absolutely. We only have 30 minutes and I'm determined to finish on time today. So we're just going to focus on those 2 to move things along faster. And Riley has helpfully posted the link to the speaking scale. Thank you, Riley. So check the chat and you've got the link there to download the PDF of the speaking scale. So these are the first 2 examples, and we've included them today just so you can see how they're connected to task 3. In case you missed the previous webinars, like I said, check them on YouTube. But the first task here, you got an image of a street with some people sitting outside what looks like a cafe, somebody cycling, and a car parked in the street. And that's the task that you had to complete to describe that image for 60 seconds. Then task 2 asked you to talk about when you traveled to a new town. So, like Philip mentioned, you're asked to recall past experiences and tell a story of something that's happened to you before, also for 60 seconds. And then task 3, here it is. In task 3, some people prefer parking close to a building. Others prefer to park far away and walk. Which do you prefer? Give your opinion and reasons to support it. You have 60 seconds to talk. You should say as much as you can. Begin speaking now. And you will hear those instructions on every task. It doesn't matter what the question is, you will always hear that second part. Begin speaking now, and then the audio will begin recording. So, as with the previous webinars, we wanted to give you a chance to have a go at this without any advice from us. So, I'll start the timer. Please have a go. We can't hear you, but it's a good opportunity for you to have a practice, see what kinds of things you come up with, and feel how long that 60 seconds feels.
Good luck. How well did you do? What details did you share? How do you think you did? Let us know.
Philip, I'm going to put you on the spot here for a second.
Go ahead.
What would your answer be if, just as a summary? I don't want you to give a full 60-second response, but what kinds of things would you talk about? Would you start with stating your opinion, or would you give some sides of both options? What would you?
Oh yeah, I'd go for the latter because they're definitely it's not one size fits all. There are circumstances where the first option is the ideal is would be the ideal one, and others where the second is better. For example, if it's raining, I would much rather park closer to the building because I'd rather not get drenched while walking or running or and slipping under the rain when the streets are not exactly dry. On the other hand, if the weather is lovely and the climate is amazing, then I would much rather just park far away to force myself to walk because this would improve my cardiac condition and help me live longer. I would take advantage of the fact that the keywords for both um, sides are already there in front of me, so I could help them to brainstorm, to have things to say. And that's what I did when I took my own MET, and that's something that you too could take advantage of for everyone who's joining us today. At the same time, if you strongly feel for one of these options, then you can just go for it and elaborate all of your thoughts there. And feel free to ignore, I guess, the other side. There's more than one way to hack this. And the experience that you had earlier when you attempted it for a minute, hopefully that gives you a clue of which approach works better for you, whether to do both or just one.
I'm so glad you said that because you're absolutely right. You don't have to talk about both options. You can just pick one and talk about that one for the full minute. That's what it's asking you, your opinion. And it's important to know that the raters are not marking your opinion. It
Mm.
doesn't, they don't have a preference one way or the other. If you want to talk about both and then explain perhaps the advantages or disadvantages of both, you can do that, as Philip mentioned. You're not being marked on what your opinion is, you're being marked on how you express it, how fully you've completed the question, and the language you've used, as we talked about. So, that's a really, really important point. And whichever method works for you, it might be different depending on the task. You might find with this one, you want to talk about both, but a different prompt, you might want to stick to just one or the other. It is entirely up to you and how you prefer to answer. It's asking for your opinion after all.
And in addition, if it given this specific task, What if your opinion is I'd rather have to choose neither of these because both assume that I would be driving a car, which is bad for my health and the environment. I would much prefer to not have to park anywhere at all because I would have taken the train or the bus. So the options are just there. That would fly, right, Emily?
As long as you're referencing the question and you do talk about parking,
Right.
yes. So be careful not to go completely off topic and start talking about the benefits of taking a train, for example. You do need to really focus on what you're being asked about parking, whether it's, but you could, of course, say, I don't park at all because I prefer not to drive. That would be totally fine as long as you're still answering the question. So
Speaking
let's look at some models so we can see one example of how this could be answered. Philip, do you want to read this one out? You always do such a good job.
oh, lovely words to hear all the time. For me, it is about the weather. On the sunny days, I like to park far away from the building and walk to there. In the rain, I don't like to walk, so I prefer parking close to the building I am going. I live in a cold place, and it is uncomfortable for me to walk in the rain and the snow, so I like parking close. Exercise is good, so I like to walk more in spring and summer. Nowadays, I work a lot on the computer, so it is a good time to have more activity if I park far away and walk. Hmm.
Thank you. Please feel free to let us know what you think of this response in the chat. And we can talk about some good points and some areas where it could be improved. But we would love to hear your thoughts about it. So don't be shy. Let us know what you think. Is this similar to what you answered in your practice? I would like to say about it, there is some good detail, and this answer has taken the approach of talking about both sides. So where it's the preference to park closely, and sometimes there's a preference to park far away and walk. So it gives more options to talk about. But this is totally not necessary, like we said, as long as you're answering the question. You don't have to pick a side, but you can, as long as you're explaining why. You're asked to give reasons to support your opinion. Um, Language wise, this is quite short and simple. There's not a lot of elaboration. It can be a bit repetitive. It mentions, I like to park far away. I prefer parking close. I like parking close. There could be more variety in the vocabulary that's been chosen. Although there are some good choices like uncomfortable. Um, there's a few words borrowed from the prompt, which is fine as a sort of starting point, but you want to use synonyms and try to phrase things slightly differently each time to show that you have a broad range of vocabulary. So try to vary the words that you're using and don't just repeat what it says in the prompt.
Hmm.
Philip, do you have any thoughts on this one?
I would like to appreciate how the response is very much focused. It promised to talk about weather and related vocabulary to that was given. I see sunny and rain and snow, and spring and summer. So clearly, this is a coherent response, at least, because it's just talking about one thing and giving supporting details regarding it. So, though indeed the vocabulary can be more varied, at least they are related. And it's easy to understand what it is trying to say.
Yeah,
That's it.
and the vocabulary is appropriate to the task as well, which is in the rating scale. It's demonstrating some range of vocabulary, but I think we can do better. What do you think?
I think so too. I think in the next slide, we'll see what the better response is.
Here it is. So this one keeps to the same topic. It's talking about the weather, but it does so in a way that elaborates more and does some of the things that we just talked about. So I'll read this one. I'll try not to read it too quickly. Well, for me, the weather is really important when I decide where to park. On sunny days, I actually prefer to park farther from the building and walk. because I enjoy being outside and getting some fresh air. But when it's raining or snowing, I really don't like walking in that weather. So I try to park as close as possible. Where I live, it gets pretty cold, so it's uncomfortable to walk in bad weather. I also think that walking is good exercise. So in the spring and summer, I like to walk more by parking further away. Since I spend a lot of time on the computer for work now, it's great to have a few extra minutes of activity by walking from my car.
Wow. What do you think, guys? What would you say in is different in this response compared to the first one? You can have your own thoughts on your own, but if you would like to share them in the chat, that would be great.
While we wait for people to share their comments, what do you think? How is this one improved on the previous?
First of all, it's longer, so therefore there's more content and more evidence of language ability for our raters to examine and judge. And this really shows more of an effort to maximize the 60 seconds that the person is given to elaborate on their thoughts. So that's the first most obvious observation for me. How about you, Emily? What do you
Um,
notice?
I I agree. It fills the time better, and that's something that is important for task completion. Really filling the full 60 seconds as much as possible with language, because the more language you're providing, the more the raters have to work with when they're rating your response. Um, the main points are the same as the first one. It's about the weather. Prefer to park further away on sunny days. Prefer to park close on rainy or cold days. But the elaboration really helps to add those reasons, give more information. The sentence structure is better. There's more complex sentences. There's more variety in the vocabulary. So rather than just saying I like parking, I don't like parking, there's some examples here like when I decide where to park, I actually prefer to park. I try to park or buy parking further away. So these, it's saying the same thing. It's just saying the same thing in a different way each time to add variety and demonstrate a really good range of vocabulary.
Indeed. And the ideas are more, the connections and relationships between the ideas, they seem more connected to each other. There are better transitions, I believe, from one thought to the next, which makes it a lot easier to know what's going on here too.
Absolutely. And we have one more example which we can go through quickly. I think you know where it's going. It's going to have more complex vocabulary and more content. But let's take a quick look. And again, please feel free to let us know what you think. What's good about this? What's not good about this?
Should
Philip,
I
did
do
you want
it?
to read it?
I very much want to.
Thank you.
Personally, my choice of parking spot depends on the weather and my daily routine. On bright sunny days, I actually relish the opportunity to park farther from my destination, as the walk gives me a chance to enjoy the outdoors, clear my mind, and fit some light exercise into my day. However, when it's raining or snowing, or if it's particularly cold, which is often the case in the winter where I live, I find it far more comfortable to park close to the building to avoid the unpleasant weather. In addition to the physical benefit, walking gives me a short break from hours spent working at a computer and helps me feel more energized. Plus, sometimes I appreciate the chance to listen to music or a podcast during my walk, making the experience even more enjoyable. Wow, whoever wrote this really knows what they're doing. This is amazing. I, what do you think, guys? Now you can see the progression clearly. And in the previous response, we shared our observations about how the second was better than the first. How about this one? How is the third better than everything else?
And if you don't want to give us a full explanation, which words or sentences do you find particularly different or a good demonstration of broad range of sophisticated vocabulary, as it says in the rating scale, or complex sentences? I see we've got a raised hand, but please type in the chat. I don't know if we can
Hmm.
unmute you to let you speak aloud, but please share your thoughts in the chat. Cecilia says it has more complex sentences and rich in vocabulary compared to the other two model answers. I absolutely agree. Rich in vocabulary is a lovely way to phrase it, Cecilia. There's words like physical benefit, the opportunity to park farther from my destination, um, the unpleasant weather, relish the opportunity. There's some rich vocabulary here, absolutely. We've got adverbial phrases like on bright sunny days and adverbs and connectors where it says however, in addition. The content is the same. It's giving the exact same information, the exact same opinion, but it's expressed in a more sophisticated way. It fully completes the task by talking about the preference and all of the factors that affect that preference, um, adding in some extra details, listening to music or a podcast, making it more enjoyable, the physical benefits of walking, avoiding the unpleasant weather. There's lots of reasons and supporting information in this response.
I appreciate in the part of the response where it gives a list, as the walk gives me a chance to do three things. One, enjoy the outdoors. Two, clear my mind. Three, get some light exercise into my day. It's always helpful having a list of related ideas, um, and it shows complexity for use of them. Lovely. Thank you, Cecilia, for sharing this. Thank you very much, Cecilia.
If we have no more comments about this one, we don't have time to give you another 60 seconds to practice again, but please feel free to do so. You know what the prompt is. And so after this webinar, set yourself a timer for 60 seconds and have another go. Or you can practice with our sample tests at michiganassessment.org. Try a different prompt and see where you have the opportunity to really expand on your initial thoughts and add in some really sophisticated vocabulary using connectors and all of the things that we've talked about today. So have a go yourself. I do want to get into some preparation suggestions, things that you can do. There we go. So you don't have to practice with official MET speaking prompts. You can make your own list of different topics, anything. Make a list of, I don't know, 10 topics, pick one at random and just have a go giving your opinion for 60 seconds. All you need is a timer. It's helpful to record yourself and then you can listen back and look at the rating scale, give yourself some feedback. But just keep practicing as much as you can so you can get used to speaking for that 60 seconds and filling that time effectively with really good language and lots of support. So don't just say what your opinion is, explain why the opinion is, or your opinion is that way. The more response or the more reasons you have, the merrier, as we say in English. So just come up with as many reasons and explanations as you can to fill that time. If you've ever played the game, would you rather this or that? That can be a really fun way to practice this as well. So pick a side, justify your opinion, giving lots of supporting statements, and don't forget to practice with a timer. So you get used to what 60 seconds for tasks 1, 2, and 3 really feels like when you're speaking English. In terms of vocabulary to practice, keep working and building your vocabulary bank on a range of topics. So personal topics, social topics, educational, or even topics about the world of work, and vocabulary for expressing your opinions. And then for grammar to practice, keep working on using a variety of different tenses, auxiliary verbs and connecting expressions, like all of this, to help lengthen your sentences, make them more complex and effective. Philip, do you have any last words of advice on preparation?
The only thing I would like to highlight in these last few seconds is that it's very, very important to practice with a timer, not only because it lets you know what 60 seconds feels like, but importantly, it also gives you a sense of how fast you need to be talking in order to cram as much content as you can to tell your story in full, within the time that's allotted to you. So definitely, please practice with a timer.
Very quickly in the last 30 seconds that we have left, we had a question or two in our registration about where you can find materials. Go to michiganassessment.org, or you can scan these QR codes. If you're watching this later on, you can pause the video and scan the QR codes. We've got free sample tests you can take. There's a preparation bank of resources. We have practice test books for purchase available on our website. And we have the MET study guide written for test takers with lots of additional advice and suggestions. And you can always sign up to do an MET review with 9.09er.
Indeed. I look forward to working with you in case you decide to go with this route.
And don't forget to join our future webinars. The list is getting smaller now. We've got 2 more on speaking in July, and then listening and reading and writing in August. So I hope to see you there. Thank you very much for joining us today. Philip, thank you for sharing your expertise and advice as always.
Thank you for having me as always, Emily. It's a pleasure.
And hopefully we'll see you next week.
Take care, guys.